So in this session we are going to study magnetic fields. The second it is second EMF second unit. In this we have to learn about current distribution. So the time constant magnetic fields that are produced between poles of the permanent magnet and near a conductor carrying constant current. So the deflection of magnetic needle placed near a current carrying conductor, it indicates the presence of magnetic field which is produced by the current carrying conductor. So this is actually the concept of current distribution that we have to study here. In this because we have to study about magnetic field, so we have to see the three possible cases where a magnetic field can be observed with the help of current. So I am sharing you the image of first part. So you can see this image, it is filament carrying current I. So it is a filament means it is a conductor having width tending to 0. It is actually cylindrical. If you take a cross section of the conductor, it is like a circle whose radius is tending to 0. So it is thin filament carrying uniform current I flowing from bottom to top. It is direction is shown here, and let the differential length be I dl, and the current passing through the differential length be I into dl. So this is the case where we can say that it is a thin filament carrying current I with a current element I dl, differential current element I dl. The second case that I am going to share you is about a current carrying surface, a surface carrying current. It is the second image. You can see that it is a surface showing a rectangular surface which is carrying current flowing from bottom to top, and in this the small square, it is differential surface which is marked here as ds. You can see the ds, it is differential surface, and in this the current is marked as K. It is current is marked as K. In filament it is shown as I, and in surface it is marked as K to differentiate between the filament current and the surface current. And when it is multiplied with differential surface, you get a differential current element in the surface case. And the third case is volume case. If the current is passing through a volume, then it can be observed like this. See that it is a volume of cylindrical type. In this, the current is marked as J. J is nothing but a current. It is different. It is different from the current density J. Current density is J is different. Here the J is indicating current. The I is the current in filament. J is the current in volume. It is called as volume current. It may be called as volume current, and the differential surface is marked as ds. And if it is multiplied with differential height, means differential length, you will get differential volume, which is dV. If it is multiplied with J, you will get differential current element in volume case. So these are three possible cases. I can show it at once in one figure like this. You can see all the three. You can compare between these three. In this, I is the current in current. It can be called as filament current or line current. K is called as surface current, and J is called as volume current. When current flows in a conductor, it produces magnetic field around it. It is observed by Biot-Savart law. So we are going to start the next topic, which is Biot-Savart law. In this Biot-Savart law, he observed the magnetic field near the current of carrying filament. So let me show a figure. Consider a filament of this type. This is a current carrying filament in which the current is flowing from bottom to top in this direction, and the value of current is I, and mark a small length. It should be considered as a straight line because it is curve in nature. You can see the filament is having arc, it is having curve, but a small length in a curve can be assumed as a horizontal line. So the small length here is differential length, it is marked as dl, and multiplying it with current you will get current, differential current element. And now we can find the magnetic field due to differential current element. It is observed as dH. dH is the magnetic field intensity produced due to differential current element IDL. The direction of dH, it is inwards, it is marked here inward. It can be obtained with the right hand rule. If you make your finger right hand, if you observe that if you make your thumb in the direction of current, if your thumb shows the direction of current, then your curled finger will show the direction of magnetic field intensity. Observe that if you take your finger thumb in right hand on right hand, thumb of right hand, just put it in the direction of current, then your finger will show the direction of magnetic field intensity. In this case, if you see that it is inward on right hand side, but if you take on left hand side, if you mark here, it will be outward. So here it will be outward, on right hand side it will be inward. So it is of like curve nature. So, the magnetic field will rotate around the filament in this direction. It will be inward here and it will be outward here. So magnetic field intensity can be obtained at any point in the space around the current carrying filament. So in this figure, a point P is marked where we have to find the magnetic field intensity. It is the point marked here. At this point, it is obtained as dH. It is obtained as dH, where H is magnetic field intensity and dH is differential magnetic field intensity due to differential current element. Current filament, differential current filament, differential current element. And dl is the direction of current. dl is direction of current. It is parallel. This line is parallel with the line here marked here. And this angle theta is that it is the angle between the radial direction from the current to the point. It is the radial direction marked with a unit vector AR. AR shows the radial direction from the source filament to the field point in a space marked as P. So AR is the radial direction from source to field point, and the angle theta is the angle between the direction of dl and this radial direction. So this we can mark it as theta here also. So this is theta. It is the same angle marked here, theta. So both angle will be same because dl is parallel with IDL. So the value of dH, it depends on various parameters. If you take the point here, the distance will be less, so the value of dH will be large. If you increase the distance, dH value will be less. It means that dH is inversely proportional to distance. So radial distance is r. Radial distance is r. So dH is actually inversely proportional to the square of radial distance. The next point is the next parameter is I into dl. If the value of current is more, then the value of IDL will be more. Then the value of dH will also be more. Means dH is directly proportional to the value of current and directly proportional to the value of I into dl. And the third point, the parameter of dependency is theta. If the angle of if you take a point here whose angle will be less, this will be the angle, then at this point the effect of magnetic field intensity due to this current filament will be less. And when the angle becomes 90 degree, means if you take a point just in front of the filament, current filament, where the angle is 90 degree. If you take point here where we can measure the angle as 90 degree, then in this case the value of DH will be maximum. But if you take point below, the angle will be more than 90 degree. In that case also the value of DH will be less. Means the value increases with angle up to 90 degree, then it will decrease in this case. So this nature is sinusoidal. So we can say that at the peak it will be maximum, and we know the sine curve, it is 0 here and 0 here, and it is maximum at peak. So this nature is sine nature. So we can say that the different magnetic field intensity DH, it is directly proportional to the sine of angle theta. It is directly proportional to the sine of angle theta. So we can write an expression for DH like this. DH is proportional to three parameters. One is current filament ideal, differential current element ideal. Second is the angle theta, sine of angle theta, and third is the radial distance r, square of radial distance. So the formula will be DH is proportional to ideal into sine theta upon r square. This is the formula. So if we replace the sign of proportionality, we will get a constant whose value is 1 upon 4 pi. In SI unit it is 1 upon 4 pi. So the formula, static formula, will become DH equals to ideal into sine theta divided by 1 upon 4 pi r square. The formula will become like this. DH equals to ideal into sine theta upon 4 pi r square, and it is DH is measured in ampere per meter. This is the unit of DH, means magnetic field intensity. So this is about Biot-Savart law. In this, the DH is calculated as scalar quantity. This formula doesn't show any direction, but in fact the DH has a direction which is here inward. So we must show the direction, and that direction can be marked as a vector perpendicular to this plane, because it is inward, and inward arrow will be perpendicular to the plane carrying the vectors AR and DL, where DL is also a vector. Here we can see the mark. DL is a vector quantity. This arrow shows that it is vector quantity. It is directional in nature. It is in above direction. Its direction is upward, and AR is directing on right hand side. So the DH is a vector perpendicular to a plane carrying both the vectors AR and DL. DH is a vector perpendicular or normal to the plane carrying both vectors AR and DL. But there are two possible cases. One perpendicular direction is inward and another perpendicular direction is outward. So out of these two possible direction, we have to consider the direction that is obtained by right hand rule. That is obtained by right hand rule. So if we if we tilt our finger from AR to DL, then our thumb will show the direction in upward direction. If we take our fingers of right hand and tilt all the four fingers from AR to DL, the thumb shows upward direction, but this direction is not the direction of DH. So if you take your finger in downward direction, then your finger if you make your finger in inward direction to the plane, then your four fingers will mark, it can be tilted from DL to AR. It can be tilted from DL to AR. In that case, the thumb will be inward. So the direction of DH can be obtained by a unit vector AN, and to get this AN, we have to take the cross product of DH cross AR, because the right hand rule, it explains that if you tilt your fingers from the first vector to the second vector, the thumb will show the direction of the perpendicular vector. If you tilt your finger from DH to AR, then thumb will show the direction of AN. So DH cross AR. So in this formula, if you want to express the direction, then we have to just multiply with a unit vector an, and that an can be replaced with dh cross ar. The formula can be it is not dh, it is dl cross ar. It is dl cross ar, and an is the direction of dh. So in this formula we can add we can multiply a cap n, and this a cap n, it can be replaced with dl cross ar. It can be replaced with dl cross ar, where we can find dl already present here. So this formula can be replaced with the final formula after the addition of, after the presence of the direction. This dh can be shown like this. This will be the formula of dh after the presence of direction. This shows the direction of dh. In this case, you can see that the current I is present here. Then r square, the sign of proportionality can be replaced with 4 pi. Then 4 pi r square is also present here. Then dl is actually the magnitude of a vector. dl is the mod of a vector. It is magnitude, and if we multiply with ar, mod of ar, and if we include sin theta inside here, then this will become the formula for the cross product ideal into a cap r. The cross product will result into dr into ar into sin theta into the direction. So this formula will be the will show the actual nature of dh, which is dependent on 3 parameters: ideal into sin theta divided by r square. Also it shows the direction with the help of this cross product. Then if you want to calculate complete dh, this is only fractional dh, differential dh. But if you want to calculate complete dh, then we have to integrate over the complete line of integration. We have to integrate all the effects due to all the differential current element. This is first current element, then next will be second current element, then third current element. So complete filament will be continuous current filament, continuous current elements present in cascade. Then if you integrate from bottom to top, if it is an infinite line, then minus infinity. If we integrate from minus infinity to plus infinity, we will get all the effects dh1, dh2. Then if you integrate all the dh, we will get h, means h can be obtained by integrating dh over a line of integration. This integration will be line integration from the lower limit to the higher limit. So if you integrate the formula, then we will get complete h. The formula will appear like this. This is the formula. It shows that the dh, which is ideal cross ar upon 4 pi r square, it is integrated over a line of integration to get h. Now if we consider the second case, a surface current element, then in that case the formula will have, instead of this I, it will have k, surface current, and the formula will become just a minute. The formula will be similar to the previous formula. That was I into dl into AR. Here it is K cross AR, where K is directional quantity, because surface is a directional quantity. So it is K cross AR. It gives you the integrating this formula will give you complete H due to surface carrying current. It is formula due for surface carrying current. Then next is volume. If you want to calculate H due to current carrying volume, then the formula will be just K will be replaced by J. The formula will be J cross AR into dV divided by 4 pi R square. This is Biot-Savart law. It explains about the magnetic field that is produced due to current carrying filament. The second case is current carrying surface. The third is current carrying volume. So Biot-Savart law is we have completed that topic. The next is we have to calculate the magnetic field intensity due to infinite filament carrying current I. So let me show the figure. Consider this figure. In this, the current filament is present on Z axis. It is present on Z axis, and this filament is infinite from minus infinity of Z to plus infinity of Z. It is a straight line. It is spread over a straight line carrying current I, and the current differential current element is marked here with a differential length in Z direction is dZ. If it is multiplied with current, you will get I into dZ, differential current element in Z direction. In generalized form, it is I into dl, where dl is generalized differential length, but here it is marked as marked on Z axis. So differential current differential length will be dZ. So differential current element will be I into dZ, and because it is a directional quantity, dl is a directional quantity, its direction is shown with unit vector az. So dz into az is differential length in Z direction, and by multiplying it with current we will get differential current element in Z direction. And the point at which we will calculate the current magnetic field intensity is present here. It is marked as point P. Then first we have to draw a projection from point P on a Z axis at angle 90 degree. The distance will be rho, and the point the effect the source of current filament is ideal. It is present here, and from that source point to the field point, the line will be the radial line. It is called as radial line, and the distance is radial distance marked as R, and this direction is radial direction, and the perpendicular from the point on the current filament is rho into a cap rho, where a cap rho is this direction from source line to the field point, and this angle theta is the angle between the radial length and this rho. Now the effect, the differential magnetic field intensity is dH. We already obtained this dH with the help of Biot-Savart law as I into dl cross AR upon 4 pi R square. So we have to start from this. We have to consider this formula first, Biot-Savart law, and from this formula we can integrate dH from minus infinity to plus infinity of Z to get the complete H in this case. So we cannot derive the formula right here. Just we have to see the result. If you integrate dH over a infinite length from minus infinity to plus infinity, we will get H as this. We will get H as H equals to I upon 2 pi rho into a cap rho, where H it shows that H is dependent on the first parameter, that is current. If the current value of current is large, then H will be more. Then it is inversely proportional to this distance rho. If rho is large, means the point is away from the source, then the value of H will be less. And this A phi is that it is the direction of H. A phi it is actually the part of cylindrical system. In cylindrical system, this A phi, it is calculated from as the angle between rho and z x plane. It is between, let me draw coordinate system. This is x axis, this is z axis. Then if this is rho, this is this is y axis, and this is rho, then it is the angle between the rho and x z plane. This is phi, and the direction of this phi is from left to right, means it increases from 0 and it goes around and complete the whole circle. So its limit is the angle, the limit of this angle is 0 to 360 degree. 0 to 360 degree. So phi is the angle measured between this rho and x z plane. So this is about the magnetic field intensity due to infinite current filament carrying a uniform current. Then in this case we have considered the infinite current filament, but the case may be different. The current filament may be finite or semi-infinite. So we will consider both the cases. If the current filament is semi-infinite, then we have to consider another figure. Let me put that figure. Consider this figure. In this case, the current filament is starting from this point and it is going to infinity in z direction. So it is semi-infinite. So in this case, the value of H will be only due to all the points above this line. So the starting point is Z1. So we have to draw a projection from point P to Z1. Actually this figure is about it is not a semi-infinite, it is about finite line. It is finite filament carrying current. The finite filament is from this point to this point only. The starting point is here, this is starting point, this is end point. Then we have to draw first projection from point P on the line parallel to this current filament. This is current filament from Z. This is current filament from I mark it as 1. This is starting point, it is 2, the end point. Current is only flowing from this starting to end point. It may happen that current is coming from this side and going to this side. So this is current filament from point 1 to point 2. Current flowing from point 1 to point 2. Then first we have to draw a projection in downward direction. Then from point P we have to draw a perpendicular line on this at angle 90 degree. Then this will be called as rho, and we have to draw a radial line from the first point to the point P, then from the end point to the point P. These two lines, these two are radial lines. This is R1, this is R2, and the angle of R1 with rho is alpha 1, and the angle of R2 with rho is alpha 2. So this alpha 1, alpha 2 are the angles of R1 and R2 with rho. Rho is nothing but the perpendicular line from point P on this Z axis. So in this case, where we are considering the finite filament, current carrying finite filament from this first point to second point, we have to consider both the angles alpha 1 and alpha 2, because these two depending on these two angles the value of H will vary. If the case is different, the case may be different. The point P may lie at somewhere here. In this case, the angle alpha 1, alpha 2 will be different. In this case, you can see that both alpha 1, alpha 2 are going upward. Here alpha 1 is upward, alpha 2 is also going upward direction. But in this case, where point P lies here, you can observe that we have to draw first rho. Rho can be obtained from by drawing perpendicular from point P on z-axis. So if we draw point perpendicular from point P on z-axis, I will get line here and it will be rho. Then for getting alpha 1 and alpha 2, I have to draw radial from point 1 like this and radial from point 2. Then in this case, alpha 1 will be downward, alpha 2 will be upward direction. And there may be third case where point P will lie above the point 2. In this case, we can see that both alpha 1, alpha 2 will be in downward direction. This will be alpha 1, this will be alpha 2. So angle of alpha 1, alpha 2, the direction of both angles depend upon the position of point P. There are three possible positions. One will be in front of the line current carrying filament, and one will be below the current carrying filament, one will be above the current carrying filament. These three are the cases. In all the three cases, I can show the figure. You can see all the three cases at once. In the first case, the point P is below the current filament. Let me mark the current filament. This is the current filament. In this case, the current filament is here, and here the current filament is here. So for calculating alpha 1, alpha 2, the radial directions are, in the first case, the radial direction is this. This is first radial, this is second radial. In second case, this is first radial, this is second. And in third case, this is first radial direction, this is second radial direction. So in all the three cases, the direction of alpha 1 can be seen. In first case, alpha 1, alpha 2 both are clockwise. In second case, alpha 1 is anti-clockwise, alpha 2 is clockwise. In third case, both are anti-clockwise. So depending upon their direction, we can have the direction of if alpha 1 is clockwise, then it is positive, then it is anti-clockwise. If it is anti-clockwise, then it is negative. We can see here alpha 1, alpha 2 both are positive because both are clockwise. Alpha, in this second case, alpha 1 is anti-clockwise, so it is negative. Alpha 2 is clockwise, so it is positive. In third case, both are anti-clockwise, so both are negative. So using this formula, using this concept, the formula for the magnetic field intensity can be modified, and that will have both alpha 1 and alpha 2 in the formula. So see this formula. This is for the case where the current filament is finite. This is the formula for finite current filament. In this we have alpha 2 and alpha 1. The value of alpha 1, alpha 2, it is the angle in radian, it is the angle in degree. You have to write in degree. Then the value of alpha 1, alpha 2, we have to see the direction also. If it is clockwise, both are clockwise, then we have to put the alpha 1, alpha 2 as positive. If it is, if one is or both of angle are negative, then we have to put the value as negative here to get the correct answer. And for a semi-infinite case, we can use the same formula to obtain the H as let me modify a figure for semi-infinite. In semi-infinite case, this may happen that the current filament will start from 0 and it will go to positive direction as Z. Let this be on Z axis, and it is starting from this 0 to Z direction. Then to find h, we have to put a point. Let the point be here, at any point. It may be, I am putting the current filament on z-axis from 0 to infinity, and I am marking the point P here. Then I have to draw a projection from the point P on z-axis, a perpendicular line. Then a radial from starting point and a radial to the end point, but the end point is not here, it is at infinity. So if the point is here, the angle will be less than 90 degree, but if it is going to infinity, the angle will increase to 90 degree. The angle will increase to 90 degree. This is the first radial R1. The angle will be anti-clockwise alpha 1, and the second case is R2. It is going to infinity, and the angle will be clockwise 90 degree, alpha 2. So alpha 2 will be positive, alpha 1 will be negative, and the formula that we have to use here is the same formula that we have studied just in previous case for finite filament carrying current, and the formula is this. This is the formula. In this case, we have to put this alpha 2 as positive here, and it will be 90 degree, and sine of 90 is 0. So in where alpha 1 is negative, so we have to put here minus, and this angle may be 30 degree, so minus 30. Then sine of minus sine of minus angle will be minus sine angle, and it will be plus sine of 30. So we can obtain h from the same formula for semi-infinite case. So there are three possible cases. One is infinite current filament carrying a uniform current over a straight line. For that case, we have to use this formula. For finite filament carrying current, we have to use this formula. And for semi-infinite or finite, for semi-infinite and finite, we have to use the above formula, and for finite, we have to use this formula, below formula. This is all about the current, all about the magnetic field intensity due to infinite filament carrying current I. Then we will proceed to the next topic, and that is Ampere-Circatal law. In this Ampere-Circatal law, we have to get the value of current due to magnetic field. In the first case, Biot-Savart law, we have obtained magnetic field intensity from current. In Biot-Savart law, we obtained the magnetic field intensity, that is H, from a current carrying filament. But here we have to calculate current from magnetic field intensity, and that is Ampere-Circatal law. So Biot-Savart law and Ampere-Circatal law both are anti-logous. In one case, we calculate magnetic field intensity in Biot-Savart law. We calculate H from I, and in Ampere-Circatal law, we calculate I from H. So to calculate I from H, we have to consider this figure first. So you can see this figure. In this case, you can the z axis is shown as point here because it is top viewed. From top view, we can see the z axis as a point, and this is x axis and this is y axis. this is y axis. So the current is flowing from minus z to plus z. It is flowing from minus z to plus z, and that is why it is showing as I out. It is coming out, and the magnetic flux lines, it rotates about the current in anti-clockwise direction. The magnetic flux lines will flow in anti-clockwise direction because it is given by Fleming's right hand rule. In Fleming's right hand rule, you have to put your finger in the direction of current, and your curled finger will show the direction of magnetic flux lines. So if you take your finger in outward direction, if you put your hand like this and put your finger in outward direction on the plane, then your fingers will show the direction of magnetic flux line. It is anti-clockwise direction. So this is the case where current flows on current filament and the magnetic flux lines will produce around it. So to calculate the current value from the flux line, this is the case where we have to find the value of current from H. For that we have to integrate H. We have to integrate H over a closed line integration, because we have to start integration. If you start integration from this point, then we have to integrate over a whole complete circle from start to end, so that the circle is closed. Means we have to start from a point and we have to end at the same point. So it is called as closed line integration. So if we integrate closed line integration from this figure, it is we can have two possible type of integration from this, and I can integrate anti-clockwise like this, or I can integrate clockwise also. So if I integrate anti-clockwise, then this integration can be called as the integrating in the direction of flux line, because flux lines are flowing in anti-clockwise direction. It can be obtained by Fleming's right hand rule. Fleming's right hand rule states that if current is flowing in outward direction, then flux line will rotate in anti-clockwise direction. So if we integrate in the direction of flux line, that is phi, if we integrate in the direction of flux line, then the current that we obtain from the formula will be positive. And if we integrate in the direction opposite to the direction of flux, then we will get the value of current which will be negative. Both the formulas are shown here. You can see that in figure the two directions are marked here. The first direction is marked here and the second direction is marked here. The direction of flux lines are marked here. The direction of flux line is in anti-clockwise direction, and this is the direction of integration. If this is the direction of integration, which is same as the direction of flux line, then the answer will be positive. If you integrate H over a closed line integration, the answer will be positive. But if you integrate in this direction, which is opposite to the direction of flux line, then the answer will be negative. The answer will be negative. Magnitude will be same. Magnitude is I, here magnitude also I, but the direction is negative. So to obtain current from magnetic flux, magnetic field intensity, just you can use Ampere's circuit law, which states that the integration of magnetic field intensity along a closed path is equal to total current enclosed by the closed path. The formula to obtain the current due to magnetic field intensity present on a current filament is this formula. Let me put that formula. This is the formula. Integration of H into dl. We have to use a dot product here, because multiplication of two vectors can be obtained by only two methods. We can either multiply by dot operator or we can multiply by cross operator. So the integration here, it is dot operation, because dot operation is same as the scalar multiplication. So H dot dl, it is same as scalar multiplication, because the result of this two gives you a scalar value. So H dot dl integrating H with respect to the differential length over a closed line integration. This circle shows a closed line integration, means starting at a point and ending at the same point. It gives you complete current flowing in the current filament, and the value of this integration, it is it can be positive, it can be negative, depending upon the direction of integration. If your direction of integration is in the direction of flux, then the answer will be positive, and it is in the, if it is in the direction opposite to the direction of flux, then the answer will be negative. So this can be understand with the help of another figure also. See this figure. So in this figure you can see the current is flowing from bottom to top. This is the direction of current I, from it is entering from this side and leaving from this side. So this is the direction of current. So if this is the direction of current, then if you keep the fingers of your right hand in the direction of current, if you keep your thumb in the direction of current, just put your thumb in the direction of current, your curled finger will show the direction of flux line. The flux line will be in this direction. It will be like this clockwise. It will go in back side, then it will come from that side. So this is the direction of flux phi. So if you integrate in the direction of flux, so this is the integration in the direction of flux. So the result of this will be positive. This is the integration in the direction opposite to the direction of flux, then the answer will be negative. This is also the integration in opposite direction, the answer is negative. Then the next case is that you can integrate if you can enclose the conductor in integration, means if you are integrating here, you are actually enclosing the conductor within your integration. If you are integrating like this, you are enclosing the conductor, complete conductor in your integration. You are not integrating the part of conductor, you are integrating complete conductor. But the case may be different. You can integrate the part of conductor also. Consider this as a conductor. Consider this as a cross-sectional conductor. It is a conductor, a cross-section of conductor. And if you integrate like this, this is the direction of this is your integration. This is the direction of integration, and this is conductor. This is conductor, and you are integrating like this and in anti-clockwise direction. Then the overlapping region, let me put this another color. This is the overlapping region. So your integration is enclosing only the part of conductor, not the complete conductor. You are enclosing only this much part of conductor, not the complete conductor, and the complete current is flowing in whole conductor. So your answer will not be equal to complete current I. If let this I be the complete current flowing in the conductor, then with this integration you will get I dash, which is less than I. You will not get the complete current I. You will get the current less than the complete current flowing in the complete conductor, because you are not integrating the complete conductor. If you want to integrate the complete conductor, then you have to do the integration like this. You have to enclose the complete conductor, then you will get the answer as I. But if you are integrating only the part of conductor, then you will get only the partial current, not the complete current. And the sign of this integration again depends upon the direction of integration. If current is coming outward, then you have to integrate anti-clockwise to get the positive answer. This is the second case. The third case may be like this. There may be multiple conductors. Consider this as a one conductor. This is one conductor. Let this be another conductor. These are two conductors, and let the current in first conductor be I1 and in the second conductor be I2, and the direction of both current is outward. Let both the current be outward. Then if you integrate like this, then this will give you complete current I1 plus I2. If you enclose both the conductors, then you will get the sum of current I1 and I2. In this case there are two possibilities, that the direction of current may be same and the direction of current may be different. In this case, the direction of current may be same. Means in the first case, the current is outward direction. The first current may be out. The second current may be out. If both current are outward, then if you integrate in anti-clockwise direction, the answer will be I equals to I1 plus I2. You will get complete current addition of both the currents. Complete current as addition of both the current. But if suppose the second current is inward, that is opposite to the first current, then you will get the difference of both the currents, and let the first current be larger than the second current. In this case, you will get the value of current I, which is equals to I1 plus minus I2, because when you integrate both the conductors, you will get the current as the sum of both the currents. But the first current is outward, so we can say that it is a positive current. The second current is inward, then it will be negative current. So addition of these two current will be I1 minus I2. So you will get difference of both the current, and this may happen that your answer will be positive. In this case, your answer will be positive because I1 is larger than I2. The in next case, I2 may be larger than I1. In this case, your answer will be negative because I2 will be larger and it is having negative sign. Then the answer will be negative. So this is all about Ampere-Circuital law. The Ampere-Circuital law is the application of this concept that you can obtain current value. You can obtain current value from magnetic field intensity. So if you see the current carrying conductor present anywhere, then from the flux line, without touching the current, without touching the conductor, you can obtain the value of current with the help of Ampere-Circuital law. So in practical cases, you can find some devices in market which can calculate the value of current just by enclosing the conductor without cutting the conductor, because the traditional way to obtain the value of current is by cutting the conductor and passing the current through the ampere meter. To find the current, you have to use ampere meter. Yeah, that is ammeter. So ammeter gives you the value of current, but in this case we don't have to cut the conductor, just we have to enclose the conductor and you will get the value of current. So this is the most easy way to obtain the value of current without touching the conductor, without touching the without hampering the working conductor. Just you have to enclose the conductor with a machine, and that will calculate the value of flux, and from the flux it will integrate the flux intensity, and it will give you the value of current. This is all about Ampere-Circuital law. The next theorem that we have to ponder on is Stokes theorem. So Stokes theorem, it is based on Ampere-Circuital law. So Ampere-Circuital law, it states that the integration of magnetic field intensity, it states that, let me first put the formula. So it states that the integration of magnetic field intensity over a closed line, along a closed line or closed path, is equal to the total current present in a closed path. So in the integral form, it is given like this: integration of closed line integration of H dot dl. It gives you value of current. So on right hand side we will have equal to, it will have equal to current. We can write here equal to current I enclosed. So integration of H dot dl gives you the current. This is about Ampere-Circuital law. But the current can also be obtained with the help of current density. current density is J. Current density is J. It is nothing but current per unit area. Current density is current divided by area. Current per unit area means ampere per meter square. Ampere is the unit of current and the unit of area is meter square. So ampere per meter square is the unit of current density. So with the help of current density we can find the value of current. So consider a surface. Then in the surface, if you take a little portion, that is differential surface ds, differential surface ds, then the current, since the current is present in whole conductor, the current is I, but in small portion there will be current, a small current, and if you multiply this current with ds, you will get current density J. So current density is the part of current present in the unit surface area. The part of current present in unit surface area is the current density. Current density is current within a area, within a unit area. If it is a unit area, then the current present in this unit area is current density. So with the help of current density we can find the value of current. So for finding the value of current, we have to integrate this current density, means we have to add the same identical current density, then we have to add again the same identical density, so that we can cover the complete surface. So integrating the current density over a complete surface will give you the total current present in the flowing in the complete surface. So this I can be obtained from this formula also. It can be obtained with the help of current density also. So on right hand side we can replace the I with the help of another formula, from another formula, and that is integrating the current density over the closed surface. The formula will be this. In this formula, the left hand side is Stokes theorem, which states Stokes theorem means left hand side, which is Ampere's second law, which states that the integration of H and dl over a closed line gives you the value of current. It gives you the value of current. And on the right hand side, if you integrate the current density over a complete surface, it also gives you the value of current. So the left hand side and right hand side both are same, both gives us current, value of current. So this equation is called as Stokes theorem. So now on right hand side we have current density J, but this J can be replaced with the help of curl. In second section of this session we have studied nabla as a vector differential operator. Yesterday we have studied nabla, which is vector differential operator, and in the topic of divergence we have studied that del dot D equals to rho V. We have studied that del dot D equal to rho V, volume charge density, can be obtained with the help of this nabla. If you integrate any vector, D with the help of nabla, means this is a differential operator, it differentiates the vector. It is differential operator, it differentiates the vector, but because both are vector quantity, this is also operator is also vector quantity, this is also a vector, then multiplying these two can be with the help of dot as well as cross operator. So if you take dot product of these two, this result in volume charge density. But if you multiply del with another vector with the help of cross product, like if you multiply, for example, if you multiply H, then it will give you J. So if you differentiate H with the help of vector differential operator and the multiplication of these two is cross product, then the result is J. So the left hand side is called as curl of H. This is called as divergence of D. The divergence of D is differentiating D with del and dot product. Curl of H is differentiating H with differentiating operator and cross product. So this is the difference between these two operators. both are same operator, both are vector differential operator. Here we have used dot product, here you have cross product. If you take dot product, then it will be divergence of D. If you take cross product, then it is curl of H, because here vector is D. If you take D here, then it will be curl of D. If you take A here, it will be curl of A. But if you differentiate the magnetic field intensity with the help of vector differential operator, it will result in current density. If you differentiate the divergence, then you will get if you differentiate D means it is flux density, it is a displacement density, means electric flux density. Electric flux is psi and the density of that psi is D. In magnetic field, magnetic flux is phi and density is B. B is the magnetic flux density and phi is magnetic flux. D is electric flux density, it is electric flux. So in this case, if you take dot product with D means magnetic flux density or displacement density, then it will give you volume charge density. Then if you differentiate H with the help of vector differential operator and using cross product, then it will result in magnetic flux density. So if we replace this J with del cross H, then the formula will become like this. The J is replaced with del cross H. So this is Stokes theorem showing the equation, Stokes theorem showing the equation. On left hand side we have H and on right hand side we have H. So on both hand side we have H, and the type of integration is on one side we have line integration and on other side we have surface integration. So this Stokes theorem can be used as the application. We can use the Stokes theorem to convert the line integration into surface integration, or vice versa. We can convert surface integration into line integration with the help of Stokes theorem, because we have H here. So if I take integration of line integration of any vector A dot dl, then it with the help of Stokes theorem it can be converted into surface integration as S del cross A dot ds. With the help of Stokes theorem we can convert any line integration to any surface integration, or any surface integration to any line integration. So it is the application of Stokes theorem. It is based on Ampere-Circuital law. So Ampere-Circuital law is the application of Biot-Savart law. In this case, in Ampere-Circuital law, we get the value of current from the magnetic field intensity. The value of current will be positive if the direction of integration is same as the direction of flux line, and if the direction of integration is different from the direction of flux line, then the current will be negative. Then let me explain another concept. Consider this figure. In this figure you can see the current is flowing from bottom to top on z axis. You can see the direction of current, it is flowing from bottom to top on z axis. Then the flux line will enclose the current and it will rotate about the z axis in anti-clockwise direction. It will be in anti-clockwise direction. Just put your thumb in the direction of z axis, then your fingers will show the direction of magnetic flux lines. And if you put a closed surface, such that the flux line crosses the surface, then we can calculate the total flux present in the closed surface. Total flux present in the closed surface can be obtained by just calculating the number of flux line crossing the surfaces of this cube. This is a cube. It has 6 surfaces. One is at top, second is at bottom, then left is third, the right is fourth, and the front is 5, and the back is 6th. So there are 6 faces of this cube. So we can calculate the total flux present in the cube just by calculating the total number of flux line crossing the surfaces. So in this figure we can see that on the top surface the number of flux lines that are crossing is 0. On the bottom there is 0. On the left is also 0. Right is also 0. There are only 2 faces, the front and back. On front side the 3 flux lines are entering, and the back side 3 are leaving. So the 3 flux lines are entering from the front side. Then we can calculate that on the front side we have positive 3 flux lines, and on back side the 3 flux lines are leaving. So for leaving we have to take another sign, because for entering we have taken positive sign, so for leaving we have to take negative sign. So the total flux present in the box is plus 3 plus minus 3. So we have to add all the flux line crossing the surface. So on top we have 0, bottom 0, left and right 0, 0. So we can neglect that. But on front and back we have flux line crossing the surface. On front side we are taking positive sign for entering. So for leaving we have to take negative sign. So the number of flux line entering the surface is 3 plus 3. Then for leaving it is minus 3. Adding these two values will get the value as 0. So total flux present within the total flux line present within the box will be 0, because of different nature of flux entering the box. On front side it is entering, on back side is leaving. So we can write this as, if you integrate the flux density over the complete surface. Complete surface means we have 6 surfaces of the cube. So if you integrate all the 6 surfaces, then the total flux present in the closed surface will be 0. You have to remember this, that if you put any closed surface within the flux line, the flux density will be 0. And it will not be affected by the variation in current. If the current increases, the number of flux line also increases. Let the current be initially for 3 flux line, let the current be 3 unit. But if you increase to 10 unit, there may be 10 flux line entering, so 10 flux line will be leaving, and the total number of flux lines present, or the total flux density present in the box will be 0, because plus 10 and minus 10 will cancel out. So total flux present will be 0, will always be 0. If you take the current of varying nature, that will be 0, then it will become positive, then become negative, then positive, then negative. In this case also the total flux present within the box will be 0. But at every instant, if you take this instant, in this case there may be maximum number of flux line entering, the same number of flux line will be leaving. In this case, where the current is negative, means current is flowing in downward direction, the current is entering from that side and leaving from this side, then the total flux will again be 0. So for every case the flux line will be 0, means for all the cases, all the possible cases, the flux line will be flux density will be 0. So the formula that I have shown was the integrating type formula. Then if you take the differential, the formula of with the help of differential operator, then it will be also 0. This is the formula with the help of differential operator. Del dot B, it will be 0 again. Since the integration is 0, differentiation will also be 0. So we got that for every type of, for every nature of magnetic field intensity, the total flux density present in the box, which is present in the flux line, is always 0. So this is about the magnetic field intensity. Then in next topic, we'll start next topic in a minute. Please wait a minute. So let me revise this. This del dot B is the differential form of magnetic flux density, and integral form of magnetic flux density is integration del dot Bs, which is also 0. So let me put that formula again. It is integral form and this is differential form. Both the form result in 0. So we have studied that del cross H in the second in the starting of this session. We have studied that del cross H gives you current density. This is the formula. Del cross H is current density. This is the differential form which has del. Then the integral form will be given by Stokes theorem, and that is del cross integration of H dot dl equal to surface integration of J dot ds. So with the help of Stokes theorem, we can say that it is the integral form of H and is the differential form of H. The above equation is differential form of H. The below equation is integral form of H. So you can see in the first equation we have H on left hand side, J on right hand side. In this second equation we have H on left and right hand, J on right hand side. So above equation is the differential form of H, magnetic field intensity, and the second equation is integral form of magnetic field intensity. So from this point we will start the next session tomorrow. Just we have to finish here the first session, this session. So from the next lecture we will start Maxwell equation from this point. Thank you.